one of the things we've done well recently is figure out how to take the techniques that we've created we've been doing this over and over again for years and explain it in restaurant founder language.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the things we had to go through was when I was giving sales presentations, I was speaking our language.
Yeah.
I was talking about colors and contrast and fonts, and the impact wasn't there when we explained it that way.
That was the 10 pillars of a profitable menu we worked on in 2022.
Yeah. And if anyone's watching or hearing this and is familiar with the 10 pillars, the 5S framework is just a variation of the 10 pillars. But we realized that the 10 pillars is really more of a training manual for us to follow, to make sure that we're designing menus the right way.
Yeah.
And it was, eyes were glazing over when I was talking about the 10 pillars a little bit. The 5S framework is a lot more, how can this affect your restaurant in a positive way? And what are the ways that you're leaving money on the table?
Yeah.
And the way that we really start the conversation usually is with the wait staff, right? And in a perfect world, your wait staff are all-stars. They're rock stars, right? They're never late. They're always on time.
They're upselling.
They never quit. They're familiar with the menus. They know what's profitable. They're upselling. They're cross-selling. They're asking the right questions. But the reality is that a lot of the wait staff are menu tellers and not menu sellers, especially with part-time wait staff and high turnover.
Yeah.
And there's a stat that's crazy, which is the average lifespan of a restaurant employee is 56 days. So in that time frame, you have to train them on everything, not just the menu, on all the policies, on how everything works. And you've got to get them up to speed. And if the average lifespan is 56 days, then they're out before they can even get their feet wet.
Right.
And even if you do have rock star employees, they do exist, they get busy. So on a busy shift, on a busy night, they're not going to be able to be in two places at once.
Right.
That was really what helped us let people know how the menu can assist in their business in the day-to-day.
Yeah. Yeah, and that story, which is a true experience, is like resonates more with the restaurant owner and the restaurant operator because they see it every single day, right? Like that, this is what they're living. They're not living in the world of colors and fonts like I am.
Are these colors better? Are these fonts better? Yeah, it's better, but
that's not really what matters.
It becomes about cost at that point for them. What's the cost? You know what? You're right. That's better, but I don't want to make that investment right now. But if the menu can be a training manual that will help people get up to speed, part-time and new people, so they can just look at the menu and really understand the business model and just follow it, it can become an enormous tool for the waitstaff in addition to the people that are dining at the restaurant, have specific questions and dietary restrictions and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the more information the menu has for people without overwhelming them, the better, right? Because that just, it takes a little bit of the heat off of the staff and allows them to assist the diners and to actually enhance their experience in ways that, you know, it isn't like they're reading a script or, you know, just, or even they don't know, they're unsure if nuts come in the meatballs or not. Then they have to go back to the kitchen and ask, and we've all experienced that situation. They don't know the ingredients of every single item on the menu. Yeah. So as much of that as that can be fleshed out on the printed menu so people can read it and understand it without having to go through the process of engaging the staff, I think the better.
And there's 2 articles recently in the news of people that ate something that had nuts and died.
Yeah.
One was
way to bring the conversation down.
Not to use scare tactics, but it's wild. And in both scenarios, in the first scenario, the woman asked and confirmed repeatedly, and the wait staff was like, "Yeah, there's no nuts. And
but the menu changed, right? Or like
no,
the preparation.
That's the second
changed.
one.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So the first one was they confirmed, and then it turns out no.
Yeah.
The second one was the person had been going there, getting this thing, and was very diligent about their nut allergy. But the recipe changed at the restaurant, right? So
and
this thing that they'd always
notify.
been getting, right? So that's
huge.
Huge, yeah.
Oof.
And it goes back to the wait staff and the training. If that either of those people were looking at that menu and there was like an icon or some kind of like alert.
Yeah, indication.
Yeah.
That there's and nuts are a big one, right? They're
Yeah.
huge with allergies. You
Sure.
want to be careful with that. So yeah, I mean that kind of goes back to, I don't really know if that's even menu engineering. It's more of like menu information, like just being as informative as you can, and you're just covering all bases, right? And that's a big part of the process of doing the menu redesign and the engineering. When we take on a new restaurant client, one of the first things that we make sure that we understand before even tackling the design is, okay, tell me about the dietary indicators on your menu, right? What items are gluten-free? What items are dairy-free? Because that also appeals to a broader audience, right? People could be avoiding your restaurant because they think everything on your menu has gluten, and then they just can't eat it.
Yeah.
But if you're labeling things properly, you're putting the vegetarian or vegan icon next to items that don't contain that, I think that you can appeal to a wider demographic of customers.
Yeah. And that kind of goes right into our 5S framework, which are the 5 S's that we've created
Right.
that are just mission critical for your menu.
Yeah.
And so the first S is strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting too, is like, why should I get my menu redesigned? Why should I redo my menu? It works fine. So that's a decent point, which is why you need some sort of strategy in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So if your goal is to sell a certain item, how does your menu position that item?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the goal of the business? And I always say, if I was going to come to your restaurant and I was going to have one bite of one thing that was going to knock my socks off and make me tell all my friends, and we got to go back, we got to try this. What is that item and where is it on the menu?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one example. A lot of times we see restaurants who will say, oh, it's the Cuban sandwich, or oh, it's the whatever burger, the cheeseburger. And then we look at the menu and we can't find it.
Yeah.
Right?
Or if it's hidden in a long list of other items and not, it just, you miss it.
Yeah. So the strategy is, and that's where we start. What do you want to be known for, really? And I think, when you're costing a menu and you have like your menu matrix, you have like your 4 categories of menu types, right? And I think anybody who's familiar with this will know what I'm talking about, but you have like your stars, which are profitable and popular. And then on the other side, you have your dogs, which are not profitable and not popular. And then in between, you have puzzles, which are
profitable but not popular.
And then you have the plow horses, which are popular but not profitable. So the goal is to make everything a star. And I think with us, with re-engineering the menu, the actual visual aesthetic of the menu, we're really focusing on promoting stars and converting puzzles into stars.
Yeah, I think that's more of like where we can see how successful the menu is, the data. Because if the star is a star already, there's really not much that we have to do. Maybe placement is important, obviously, and maybe letting people know that it is a popular item because it's already a popular item. But stars may not be, I guess stars are profitable and popular, right? But the puzzles are highly profitable but not popular. So we look at that, and I think the restaurant needs to ask themselves, is there something that I can do in the kitchen to make this item more appealing to customers? Because maybe they're not ordering it because of there's something in it that people are just not into, or maybe it's the way that the item is being described, right? Or maybe it's the name of the item, right? It's not sexy enough. It's not pulling people in. So that's something that we also talk to them about. Oh, well, look, why don't we just change the name to the Tavern's specialty burger platter? Or whatever.
Give it give it a facelift. I think you can change the location of an item. What we see a lot is it's buried in a long list. So you can put a box around it. You can make it a standout item in its own section. You can change the name of it. You can change the description of it. So these puzzles have a good business model behind them. The only thing preventing them from becoming a star is marketing.
Yeah.
So we've got to market them on the menu in a way that drives people as an eye magnet so people can see.
Yeah.
And you can also put them on daily specials and
Completely separate in-house
menu,
promotion. Yeah.
Or put them on a table tent or give somebody a free sample. Right? It's a lot of opportunity, I think, to turn puzzles into stars because the economics already work well.
Right.
The dogs and the plow horses, really, you're going back to the 7 Ps of restaurant marketing and you're trying to figure out what you need to do in the kitchen, maybe it's a smaller cut of meat, maybe it's less pasta, maybe it's a different size, doing different things to get your costs down, which is not really our world. We're more of just engineering the menu in a way that promotes the things that are already have a good business model.
Yeah.
So having the strategy and kind of sharing the strategy with us is important.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people are frustrated with designers when they're designing their menu. And the reason is, number one, designers are not really familiar with how a menu needs to function. They make it look nice, but they don't really understand how it needs to function. And then number two, they don't share the strategy with the designer to show them this is what I'm going for. So that strategy, that first S, is very important.
Yeah. And I think that another benefit of what we do is not only is menu design really our primary design service that we offer, but we actually have a built-in strategy of how we operate. Of course, we meet with the restaurant and we want to hear from them and have them tell us their own strategy and what their objectives for the menu is. But after that, we know the points that we need to hit. We know how it needs to function. We know how best to make it the best user experience for the customer that will, A, make them order the right thing for them, and B, give them the opportunity to navigate the menu quickly and maybe order more, maybe increase the check. Maybe they already decided what they want because they were able to easily find the sandwich that they were looking for. Maybe they want to add an appetizer, or maybe they want to add a side. There is a lot more opportunity when you give people more time, really, with the piece.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that goes a segue into the next S, which is structure. And you want to structure the menu in a way that's easy to navigate. So this is like really the menu as a map. Clear categories, not overloading sections, and making sure that it's easy for people to just look around the menu in a fun way where it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the easier it is for them to make a decision, the more decisions they'll make.
Yeah.
To your point. They see that this is the thing that they like. In the first 15 seconds, I already know that I like that. It's a specialty item. It's what they do well. Great. Now you free up some of that time. It's a very small period of time, but you free up some of that time for them to make some other decisions.
Now they're talking. They're at the table with their friends. They see that the mussels are highlighted and the starters. Oh, should we share that for the table? Yeah, let's order it. It looks like it's popular here. Just engaging, the engagement with the menu and giving, and it makes it more of a dynamic experience when the menu can highlight certain things or indicate this is what you're looking for if you like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think our rule of thumb, really, I think general rule of thumb based on history of menu engineering data that has always been done, is that a section really shouldn't have more than 7 or 8 items per category. But that is not really set in stone. I work on a lot of menus that have many more items. There are other ways to navigate around it, like breaking up the columns, breaking up the sections, maybe creating new sections out of like similar items, like
calamari corner or
right.
like section. Yeah.
Yep. You have 3 different taco options in your appetizers. We can break that out into its own category now, and it just makes it so that when you look at it, you can clearly see the headings, you can see the types of items that is being offered on the menu. And then you do that once over, right? You do the glance through where you're not reading everything from top to bottom. Nobody does that. You glance at it, you look at the different sections, and then you go back to the sections that appeal to you the most, and then you read through that. So I think that's why the structure of the menu is so important, especially with the limited time that you have looking at the menu.
Yeah. I think the 2 main things we see with structure are long sections, long lists, and the other thing is too many standout items.
Oh, yeah.
Too many icons and pictures and too many fonts. And if you make everything stand out, nothing stands out. So being strategic in the things that you want to have stand out. Going back to strategy, if the Cuban sandwich, you want that to be that eye magnet. You want people to draw their eye to that. Make that the standout item that has a photo or an illustration. But don't do that for everything. Otherwise, you're diluting that, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's funny because just as an example, working with some restaurants, what I'll do is rule of thumb, 1 or 2 standout items per page. And a standout is it's an item that's either in a box or it has a graphic or picture near it. It draws your eye to that one area of the page. So you don't want to have too many of those on the page. But on the other side, what I'll do is add maybe a little indicator, like a favorite icon, take a part of their logo or something and put it maybe next to 1 or 2 items per section. So now you can show people the popular items in each section without making them all standout items and really diluting the purpose of the menu. But a lot of the time I'll meet with the customer to go over the draft of the menu, and I'll show them the items that we're indicating as popular and then the standout. And like almost every time they want to, first of all, they want to overuse the popular icon. I'm like, okay, why don't we just stick to the items that really are popular or that you're trying to promote more, right? Because even just having the icon near 2 per section, your eye's going to those items, but it's also going to the items above and below. So you're still getting that space and you're getting that attention to that section. You don't want to overuse it. But then I'll have an item in a box as their standout, and then they'll also want to put the icon there. And I'm like, no, we don't need to do that. We already have it. It's standing out on the page. Like, we don't need to also add the icon. So people get a little excited when they see, the popular items. Less is more, trust me. Maybe the next revision, we'll try adding it next to other items and see if that helps selling them. But I think it's funny how people, they love it. They love the popular icon.
So that's like getting into the third S, which is suggest. So we have strategy.
I keep jumping the gun here.
You know what it is? They all structure and suggest is very much overlapping. A lot of it overlaps.
Yeah, it does.
But we have strategy, we have structure, and now suggest. The items should suggest, the menu should suggest the items that you want them to try the same way that your waitstaff would. I want to know what's good here. What are you guys known for? If either the waitstaff or the menu doesn't tell them what they should try, they're going to go to their default, which is, this is an Italian restaurant. Let me just try the chicken parm. Right? If they do that well, then maybe when I come back next time, then I'll try
something else.
Or they'll just be like, let me get chicken fingers, let me get a hamburger. So it's a missed opportunity for them to try that signature dish. So if the waitstaff doesn't tell them and the menu doesn't tell them, that's what they're going to do. And this is really an example of where the menu can help both the waitstaff and the diner know what they should try. Right? So we talked about eye magnets, standout items. We've seen customers who have it takes an enormous takes up an enormous part of the page of one item because they want to be known that this is the capital for mussels, right? Or this cheeseburger is award winning, and if you're going to come here and try one thing, this is what you have to try, right? So I think suggesting with eye magnets is a way to really promote standout items. And then you would mention the favorites icons, which is a more subtle way. If you don't like this signature item, here's some other options that may work. And I think that also the dietary component becomes a part of it as well. You have that mission critical, don't eat this if you have a nut allergy. Let's make that clear. But then you also have more preferences where I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan. It's more of a choice as opposed to health risk. And I'm really happy that you have gluten-free options. I'm really happy that you're vegan and vegetarian. So these are just a few different ways that the menu can suggest in different ways based on both popularity and profitability, but also preference. For 3 Ps.
Wow.
Popularity, profitability, and preference. Should we change it?
I don't know. Let's see how we do with the others.
But yeah, suggesting is, it's a subtle way to really just engineer the menu in a way to drive the business model.
Right.
So that's the third S. The fourth S is sell. And of course, this is the sexiest one. How can my menu sell for me? And I think that there's a lot of mistakes that restaurants make that are just basic mistakes. I don't know if you want to go through a few or...
Yeah, the big thing that I think the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The biggest alteration, I think, when I'm doing a menu is really while I'm reading the ingredients and reading the item name and then the description and what they come with, and I'm noticing, oh, okay, this meatloaf platter comes with mashed potatoes and vegetables. That's cool. And I'm going through, and then they'll have a side section, and they'll have 4 sides, and they won't list any of the sides that already are coming with entree. So they're already carrying it in the restaurant, but they're not listing it in their side section, which I think is a mistake. If you're offering it on another item with another dish, then I think that you should have that as an item that people can order by itself, because you never know. If it's not on the menu, people are not going to know that you have it, that you're offering it. And maybe someone is obsessed with mashed potatoes. They want a burger, and they want the fries, but they also want mashed potatoes. This person loves potatoes or whatever it is. Really just, I think the sides, making sure that you're listing all of your sides, all of like a Mexican restaurant, for example, all the extras, getting the guacamole and the salsa and the chips and all those other extra things that elevate the meal. More modifiers are big, substituting a side salad or waffle fries for regular fries for another $1 or $2. I think the cost for the restaurant is basically the same in terms of food cost, but you can charge $1 or $2 and make a little bit extra because people see value in it.
Yeah.
So they see value in substituting onion rings for French fries.
Yeah.
So I think, basically modifiers, upsells, cross-selling is a big one. So bundling things together, burger and a beer for $25 if you order them together. That's, people love a deal. They love value, perceived value. Don't trick them. Don't charge them more for the 2 items that would be cheaper if they ordered them separately. But I think that where there's opportunity are like these like lower cost for the restaurant items. So like sides or beverages and pairing them with popular items for a discounted rate. I think people like that.
Yeah. And I think like from a design perspective, a lot of times they may have that on the menu, but it's just so far away from where the decision is being made.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a really big one. If you have modifiers that are section specific, like you can swap out the fries for a salad or for sweet potatoes, like we want those to be near where the decision is being made. If I'm putting together my plan and it's going to be a cheeseburger, I want to know that I can add cheddar and bacon, and I want to be able to see that I can actually swap out sweet potato fries for regular fries, whatever it might be. Has to all be in that area.
Yeah.
We see that a lot where it's all the way at the bottom of the menu.
Oh, yeah. It's hidden. It's like an afterthought.
People are never going to know that they can do that.
Yeah. A lot of the time I will list it whenever there's a section that just blanket comes with a side, fries, usually with sandwiches and stuff. I'll always add the other modifiers or substitute. You're obviously not going to list every single side. That's possible, but you can say substitute a premium side maybe for this much, and then list the premium sides on each page of the menu.
Yeah.
So if it's a front and back, list it on both sides. Just make it easy. Make as minimal friction as you can between the decision and the customer and the experience with the menu.
Yeah. And one of the examples I love is like this is the Suggest iMagnet/Sell is we did a menu where we were promoting the egg as an add-on.
Oh yeah.
Right? And this is an example of a contextual iMagnet. We wanted to upsell an egg. This is a breakfast concept. So we had an illustration of an egg, farm fresh egg for $1.50. And that was an iMagnet, but it was contextual because it was right next to the avocado toast. So the idea is that a farm fresh egg goes well with avocado toast. And a lot of times we see iMagnets that are just there for fun.
Right.
But so contextual iMagnets are a great way to upsell. Another thing is like the short stack.
Yeah.
So if people like ordering a short stack with their breakfast, but they don't want to order pancakes as the main thing, add that as an iMagnet as a suggestion, right?
Yep.
So I think it's a good way. And you can look at your data too. You could look at your POS data and see that people are ordering a short stack as an add-on to this. Let me now make that prominent on the menu.
So more people.
To give other people the idea that maybe who haven't thought of it to add this on and to try this out.
Yeah, and I think that's a great use of any sort of illustration is when you can really tie it to the ordering behavior and then to increase profit. That's perfect. Yeah, you want to sell more burgers, put an illustration of a burger near the burgers. That's great. That could solve that problem. But when you're able to do it with modifiers or add-ons, they've already made the decision that they're going to buy a meal. Now you're helping them enhance it.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay a little bit more. And maybe influence the other people at the table to do the same. Like, who knows? Like, it really, I think it can really help with the bottom line. And it also it's an easy way. And as you said, look at the POS data, see how people are ordering things, what items are being ordered together, and what kind of opportunities you can have to kind of make that into some sort of feature on the menu.
Yeah. And I think people will pay a few extra bucks to have it their way. they're happy to do
Absolutely.
it. All right, so the last S is story, right? We did strategy, structure, suggest. So the last one's story. And story is cool because it keeps evolving the idea of the story and how it can be used or how it can be incorporated. Like we have the very literal sense, which is put the story on the menu, branding and visuals that are consistent with the brand. But it's really, the more I talk about it and think about it, there's a lot of different ways to use the menu to drive story and culture.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite examples is Near's Tavern in Queens, one of the oldest restaurants in the city. Probably most known for being the social club in Goodfellas,
Yeah.
where Jimmy decides to whack Maury. And it's like where they hang out on Christmas and all that stuff. So this is a real place. This is Near's Tavern. They've been around since 1826.
Woodhaven, Queens.
Woodhaven, Queens. And they have so much rich history even before Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Mae West used to perform there
Yeah.
when at the turn of the century.
It was an old race track,
It was
betting
across
club.
from an old
yeah.
racetrack. Yeah. Their mahogany bar is 150 years old or whatever. So this is equity in the brand that is proprietary.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about restaurants and burgers and fries and chicken fingers and mozzarella sticks, really the only thing that's proprietary is your story.
Yeah.
Near's has wonderful stories. If you want to talk a little bit about some of the things you did on the design to literally bake the story in to the design.
I mean, it was so crazy because I never even heard of it before we engaged with them. I think they're older than literally one of the oldest bars in New York City, which I think is incredible. It's still standing. It's still serving. It has been serving since 1840 something.
Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah, we're talking to Loisant, who's the owner, and he was telling us the backstory about how when they first opened, they had a racetrack across the street, and it was like a betting club. So people would come and they'd have a couple drinks and they'd have their race tickets, betting. I don't know how that works. And so from that, and then I think it changed hands a lot of the time throughout the 19th century and early 20th, and became more of a tavern where people would perform. Mae West.
It was a bowling alley.
Yeah, it was like crazy, and it was great. He sent a whole bunch of really old pictures of the building and the inside of it, and you can tell it has that very rich history. So yeah, when I approached the menu design, I really wanted to exemplify like that the history. I wanted you to look at the menu and just not even have to like read the history to know that a little bit about who they are and what their past was like. Yeah, I pulled a lot of different resources when I was designing it. Really old racetrack pamphlets, the very old school green border, like very like ornate borders, and the fonts and the way that like the text would kind of warp a little bit. Like it was really like a lot of embellishments. So yeah, I wanted to pull that into the design. The font, we had a whole conversation about the fonts and me trying to find the perfect font for the menu.
That's right.
But yeah, I can't really have a conversation with anybody else about that. So you got to hear my rant back in the day. But yeah.
Finding the perfect font.
Finding the perfect font.
This is an example of our world, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking to a restaurant owner, we'll say, we want to find a font that suits your brand.
Yeah.
And then we move on.
Yeah.
What that actually looks like.
Hours.
Tell a little bit about what goes into
It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot. I have a library of probably over 15,000 fonts at this point. I can't name them all, but I do look through them quite a bit. But anyway, yeah. So I did. I eventually found the right font for it. I was happy. But yeah, so I wanted to stylize the menu in that way. Obviously, engineer it, organize the information. Pulled some of their logo as like a little horse Nears, and then it's like a guy on a racehorse. So I used the little racehorse as the favorites icon, only for a few items because their menu is not very big. And then highlighted the Goodfellas burger, because that was their signature burger. It actually won awards, so I made sure that was labeled there. And then on the back side of the menu, put the drinks, and that's where we actually put a little bit about the story of the restaurant with a really great old picture of a bunch of guys standing out front in like 1900 or something. Like, but it was a fun one.
Yeah. And what I like about that Goodfella burger is it's such a great example of really incorporating almost every S of the 5 S because We put it in a box. The box is modeled after Churchill Downs racetrack ticket. It's branded as the Goodfella burger, and it has an illustration which makes it an eye magnet. So it's everything in that one burger.
Yep.
Right? And it happens to be an award-winning burger.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there eating this burger in this historic establishment. So the menu has continued to drive that experience.
Yep.
That you're in a special place. You're in a unique place, and you're having a special burger that's a unique burger, and then you bite into this thing, and you have that moment, which is, this is really cool. I got to tell my friends I want to come back.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about that case study.
Yeah. No, it's great. And I've seen him. We did this menu 2 years ago, probably. And they've been having stories written about them. So the whole thing before we even took the project on was he saved the restaurant from going out of business.
Yes.
Because it was about to, it was like the
lease was
landlord,
up,
the lease
and the
was
landlord
up.
was going to hike up the rent. And
so another big thing, and this had nothing to do with us, was that the owner had he reached out to a lot of news organizations in the area promoting Save the Oldest Bar or whatever, and actually got a lot of people from the community to come up and endorse it and maybe send some donations and stuff, and he was able to save it. And
on Friday, he put out like a Instagram post that said, "This is going to be our last night," or "Tomorrow's our last night," because of we couldn't get together with the landlord, blah, blah, blah. And that got picked up by news organizations and the town and the mayor, everyone, it popped up on everybody's radar because of the amount of history that this thing had. And on Sunday, the mayor was behind the bar toasting because they had just struck a deal with the landlords.
Yes.
To make it work for everybody. And so Friday he sends out the Instagram post. We're done. Sunday he's having a party. So that's the power, I think, of the story. It really, saving the business. Is also, it's
that's
amazing.
true. Yeah. And there was a lot of press about that we didn't add to the menu. It's just the history of the building. But I'll take a little bit of credit for saving the business. Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that was a great story, and they're still going strong, which is good.
Yeah. I think the other thing with story, which I realized as that became like a case study for us, when I would talk to other people who have been in business for 8 months and they don't have 190 years of history, it was like, what else can we do to really tell the story? And we started finding other kind of stories where, rags to riches. The person came over from Ireland, started with one restaurant, now it's 2, now it's 5. It's a whole family affair. There's the 2 broke bartenders that started from nothing and grew it. There's the overcoming the tragedy. There was a fire here. And all this kind of stuff really drives the story and makes it stick. And it makes people remember, because people remember stories. They don't remember coupons. They remember stories.
It needs to create some sort of emotional connection. You want a connection, especially when you're there. I think it's even more relevant. Like Benir's Tavern again, looking at the menu and then looking at the picture of the restaurant that you're sitting in 200 years ago. You're actually you're connecting with the place physically as you're there. And I think that even if it's a subconscious thing, that resonates and that connects with people, and it does help remember and really build brand trust and loyalty.
I think another thing that I really started to look at was culture. So we're talking about driving the story through the menu, but driving the culture through the menu. And one great example of that is Taproom. And their struggle was they are growing fast, 6, 7, 8 locations. They're opening another one next year. And what's happening is they're starting to get further away from the nucleus. And the ordering patterns are different because people don't know. It's less word of mouth. It's less repeat customers. It's brand new customers trying this place for the first time. And one thing they realized is that their signature dish, which was their mussels, was just not being ordered the further they got away from the nucleus. And they got in a room and they said, in the early days when we were 1, 2 locations, the mussels was our thing. That's what we're known for. People would grab the bowl and drink the broth out of the mussels because it was so good. That's the Taproom experience. And they have it dialed in. They trained their wait staff. The different stores were having competitions with each other. They just could not get these muscles to move. The places that were further away from the nucleus were viewing Taproom as a burger joint.
Yeah.
And the burger's great.
Yeah.
But they were looking as a burger spot.
Yeah.
So when they re-engineered the menu, they put the muscles front and center, like huge standout item.
Takes up like a quarter of the menu on the front. Yeah.
Quarter of the menu. It's got illustrations. It's Taproom signature muscles. And they have a couple of add-ons, add fries to create some more margin. But it's a giant, we made it a giant box. And the 90 days before the overhaul, they sold 978. I think it was 978. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
Muscles. And then the 90 days after, it was like 2,500.
Wow.
Or 2,700. It was like 170% increase in the muscles. And it wasn't that necessarily the muscles were higher profitability or that they were popular. It was just culture.
Yeah.
Taproom wants to be known as the place for muscles. And so they were able to use the menu and re-engineer the menu in a way that as they got further and they start opening up in new markets, they can still tell that story and drive that point home.
Yeah.
And there's another case study, which is Toast Coffee and Kitchen. Similar problem, although as they grew, they realized that with a lot of part-time employees and high turnover, that the employees didn't really know the menu. They didn't know.
It's hard for them to train each new hire on all of the intricacies of the menu and vegetarian options and all that. Yeah, they have a pretty decent sized menu.
And their go-to item is the 3-ring circus, which is like a great breakfast platter. And since they redid the menu, I think it was a 70% increase, like across the board, across all locations, just by making that into a standout item.
Yep.
And then it trains. They looked at the redesign as a way to train the wait staff.
Yeah.
Whereas Taproom, the wait staff knew we got to push muscles, just people were not ordering them.
Yeah.
Toast really used it as a way to educate their staff and trickle down the culture into the staff.
Yep. Yep.
And I think that those examples are story-based, right? Culture-based, but not so literal.
This is our story. Like
Right,
this
yeah.
is who,
So there's ways to really engineer the menu in a way that I think can drive the experience, drive the culture, drive the training.
Yeah, I think the design definitely it enhances it enhances the brand culture. Whatever it is that your goals are as a business, as a brand, having the right design materials behind you to back you up just reinforces that trust. Like me sitting at a restaurant and I've never been into Taproom, I see that you have mussels on the menu. It's just in a list. I'm like, I don't know. I like mussels, but I don't know if I trust it. Even the waitress coming over to me and being like, have you tried the mussels? They're really good. Okay, that's great. But when I see it huge, you're taking some serious real estate on your menu to promote these mussels. I trust that. Because you're not just going to do that for no reason. Like you're trying to tell me something. Your waitress is trying to tell me something. Like I'm like that to me. I think just adds another layer of of course, like they're the place for the mussels because it's right here.
It shows confidence.
Yeah,
it shows that you have confidence in that dish.
Right.
So you go ahead and try it. You won't be disappointed.
Right.
And that's another way to really drive that.
Yeah.
And sell it.
For sure. Yeah. Did we do all the S's?
That's our S's.
Okay.
That's our 5 S's.
Geography. How much time do we have?
You are at 08.
Jeez.
An hour and 8 minutes.
Okay, so we have...
20 minutes?
Another 20 minutes?
Okay, cool. Crack a beer. You want a beer?
I'm still working.
Oh, wow. I get thirsty when I talk.
One other story example, which is geography. So I think we had that one example with the Burmese kitchen, which it's Asian cuisine, but it's specifically Burma, authentic Burmese dishes, and it's not really a super popular known cuisine, right? One of the big things on the menu is really paying homage to the background and the history of the owner, who is from there, and bringing that cultural relevance to the physical menu. For example, on the drink menu, it's like a booklet, and they have like all different sorts of specialty cocktails and stuff like that. But there's a big old map of Burma. I don't think Burma's even a country anymore.
Yeah.
And so there's that, and then there's all throughout. It's like a little booklet. So you're going through, and there's like just these really old, like actual black and white photos of, I guess, her family, and it ties you. But you walk into a place like that, and the interior is probably also really reinforcing that cultural experience, like the way that they're designing the restaurant. But I think that having the menu is a part of that. It's a part of that interior, like the ambiance of everything. And so it's like you're reading like a little informational guide about this place and this cuisine that maybe you've never tried before, and it's transporting you to another place in the world without actually having to go there, right? So I find that geography is another one that you can tell your story without actually telling a story, an actual story, but by using those elements that kind of draw you to a time and a place that's not here.
What's interesting too about that is you want to design the menu in a way that makes them feel like they're transporting to that place or to that time, but you don't want to intimidate them.
Right.
So having a good balance of I feel like I'm trying something different.
Yeah.
But also, okay, it's a Caesar salad.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Like,
no, and with their menu, I think we did a good job of that because it's really a guide more than anything else. Like they have all of these really authentic dishes, and they actually have them in the language that in Burma as like a little highlight, but all the descriptions are in English, all the item names are in English with the little, and then also the dietary icons. So we have shellfish, egg, nuts. You can look at a dish and never heard of it before, but you know that, okay, this has shellfish and it has nuts in it, and I can't eat shellfish, so I'm not going to order it. I think it's really informative and it's engaging. So you're someone who's never eaten in a restaurant like that can confidently order something and probably enjoy it, right?
Yeah. I think another one is locally sourced, made fresh, made from scratch. We have a couple of restaurants like that are promoting the fact that everything is sourced locally, whether it's the bakery or the fish or the vegetables. And I think, again, there's a story to be told there where your community, you're local, you're keeping the money in the community.
In the area.
Everything's fresh, right?
Yeah.
It's all small business. And I think that can resonate with the demographic of people as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a ton of restaurants they're just single unit restaurants, and they're really community driven. They're catered to the town that they're in, to the people that live there, the people that are visiting there. They're really proud to be a part of it. And like Henley's has been a customer of ours forever, but he's got a small restaurant in Brightwaters, but it's super popular. And something that I think is really cool that he does is he changes his menu almost every month. I think updating the items based on just whatever kind of is trending, but also whatever he's able to get locally sourced, and just keeping it fresh because you know that you have a really dedicated clientele, like customer base that is coming in. They're regulars, they're coming in all the time. And so you're actively, as a restaurant owner, updating your menu to keep things fresh and interesting. So they're not just, sometimes they will order the same thing over and over again, and I'm sure some of them do. But there's always new options to try. And I think that's something that smaller restaurants can do to just get a little bit more creative with how they're operating on that level. Yeah. Specials are super important.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to be creative and you're trying to make the use out of the best use out of the food that you have and the stuff that you bought. If you could be known for the place that's creative, it gives you some liberties where they're not necessarily coming back for that same staple. They're coming back for the new experience. Maybe a little more daring with some of the food that you buy because you can repurpose it and you're known for that.
Yeah, absolutely. People also know that you have a really great burger, so if there's nothing new that excites you, at least there's like that comfort feeling. I'm comfortable here. I'm going to go there. This is my spot. I love their burger, but they always have new things. I tried those short ribs last week, and they were really good. Maybe they'll have something else. I think it allows the excitement to stay alive with people that even do come more frequently. It's
for sure. Big question I get all the time: build your own. The build your own question. And we've seen it done well, and we've seen it not done well.
Yeah.
What, in your experience, has been some like pitfalls of YOB? No, bring your own beer. But what do you feel is, because it can be overwhelming, right? It can intimidate, and we've seen it where I don't know what to get, and it's now the same as if they didn't structure it and they didn't have any suggestions, and it was overwhelming. It's just I don't know what to get. I
Yeah.
don't know where to begin.
I think it mostly has to do with the type of dining experience that it is. I find that like the build your own, if that's all you're offering to people and you're like fast casual order at the counter, it could backfire because now people are standing up there forever and they're just trying to decide. They're taking forever to decide. It's not necessarily a bad thing. There's ways around it. I think if that is the case, to have a little pen and paper notepad and like build your own and then hand it to the guy, that's always a good idea for the fast casual. But I think there are a lot of people that are very particular and they do like to customize. So I don't hate it. I don't really have an opinion one way or another whether people should have it or not. But I do think it's a good idea to also have signature items that are tried and true and like for the people that don't feel like creating their own meal now.
Because I know personally, I just want to. I'm coming to your restaurant. You've spent all of this time and all of your resources putting together a menu, and now I've come here and I'm going to try something.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I to customize the whole thing? Shouldn't I just trust you?
Yeah.
And I feel that way. Like I want to try whatever the signature sandwich is. If I get that and I love it, and then after a while I want to like deviate from that, that's fun. It's cool. But for the first time, it's overwhelming. And I'm just going to ask, what do people usually get? Now I'm back to my default.
I don't think it should be like that's the only way. I think that there should always be some signature items for those people that are like, I didn't want to cook today. I don't want to have to build my own meal. Just do this for me.
You think there's like a limit to the amount of like extras and add-ons? Because a lot of times it'll be like choose a protein and then it'll be like add your sides. And I've seen it where there's 15, 20 different sides. There's cucumbers and chickpeas and carrots and a hard-boiled egg and this is an extra 75 cents. This is an extra $1. This is an extra 20. Like it can be just out of control.
The benefit of that is that you can get someone to order a $27 salad because they're just going crazy with all the add-ons. But yeah, limit obviously includes 2 of these but no premiums. Add premiums for X amount.
It's the same logic as a menu where you don't want to have too many items per section. You want to have clear categories and make it easy for them. If they're going to build their own, it has to be the design has to show them where to start, then where to go, and then where to finish. And if that's confusing, it's the same idea as having a menu that's not
I
structured.
do think so. Like the salad bar places, I think are like their own. You could do like a build your own burger, choose a protein, choose a topping, but there's a limit. You're not going to get 7 extras on a burger, maybe, but like that, you're not going to be able to hold it. If there's like logistical issues with that, a salad, I think it can get away from you. That's why I really do, going back to it, like the little pad and paper, pad and pencil and pad thing, where you just have a little checkbox. Because, I mean, like a lot of the salad bar places, they really do have a ton of toppings and proteins and cheeses. And it's like you want to list them all. You kind of a mistake not to because everybody has different tastes. So I think for me personally, I like when they have those. And I always gravitate towards the pencil and pad to create my own salad. Because looking up at the screen and seeing all of the items, I can't digest that. No. I'm going for a signature item. But give me the pencil and pad, and I'll fill that out every day.
That's a good point.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for the fast casual mode. But yeah, there's not really a lot of sit down places that are like build your own salad. Not that I've seen.
You get like the delis, build your own sandwich, or the burgers, build your own burger. But again, there's a limitation, right, where it's just logistically.
This really makes sense. Yeah. Too. Like the omelet.
The omelet,
Get your own omelet. Yeah, it's good to have choice, but too much choice can be overwhelming. And you also have to think about like how much real estate it takes up on the menu. So is it worth it for that, or do you want to just maybe have a list of items somewhere? And
if nobody's doing it, if you have a build your own and it's taking up a lot of space on the menu and a lot of space in your fridge, you have a dog, right? It's not profitable, not popular.
Yeah.
You need to either reinvent it, reimagine it, or you need to get rid of it.
Yep.
So let the numbers tell you what
and it
you
could
should
logistically it could be like annoying for a waitress to try to write them in, and then when she's at the POS to try to find all the items because they're not like I think that on that end too, now table turnover is longer because
they're more likely to make a mistake.
Yeah, more likely to make a mistake. But the menu is a guide, right? It's intended to be an informative navigational guide to your dining experience.
And we are the guide creators.
We're the map keepers.
We're the
What do they call them? Exhibitioners?
exhibitioners. On that note, should we
Yeah,
end it?
sure.
To the exhibitioners of the menu world,